Well, hello, I'm Apostle Tommy Quick, founder and president of Christian Families Against Destructive Decisions. I welcome you to our first annual national conference, and our theme this year is The Family Together, a Case for CFAD. This conference consists of three things: an outdoor family rally, 5 dynamite in-person worship services with powerful speakers, and 30 webinars by anointed and informed presenters chosen from across the country. Our mission here at CFAD is to influence the building and sustaining of strong families and strong family heritages by promoting a biblical worldview and a God-first lifestyle. Well, our worldview is always the basis upon which we make all of the decisions in our life. A biblical worldview is one defined as believing that absolute moral truth does exist, that such truth is defined in the Bible, and that firm belief in 6 specific religious views is necessary. Those views are: 1, Jesus Christ lived a sinless life; 2, God is the all-powerful, all-knowing creator of the universe; 3, he is still ruling the world today; 4, salvation is a gift from God and cannot be earned; Satan is real; 5, a Christian has a responsibility to share their faith with other people; and then last of all, the Bible is accurate in all of its teachings. When a person embraces the biblical worldview, it enables him to make decisions that will cause his life to be a life that is victorious, and he will enjoy many blessings in this present world and in the world to come, eternal life. Today, our society has been infused with doctrines from many different religions. Many demonic doctrines have been promoted, and our families are being exposed in education, in the school system, and throughout our society to things that are detrimental to our well-being as individuals and as families. So during this conference, our goal is to show why CFAD, Christian families, must take a stand against destructive decisions, and to invite you to be a part of this great solution that God has raised up to answer the suffering, the pain that has resulted from so many decisions that are made without the fear of God. Well, it's my pleasure to welcome today Dr. Mary Williams Murray. Dr. Murray is the wife of Dr. Larry Murray, who is the pastor of Fellowship of Love Community Church of God in Christ in Savannah, Georgia, and also the Fellowship of Love Worship Center Church of God in Christ in Hinesville, Georgia. They have a daughter, twin sons, and 2 grandchildren. She serves as the elect lady, co-pastor, and women's department president in both locations, as well as the district missionary for the Savannah district, South Central Georgia jurisdiction. Dr. Murray is impressively educated with 2 bachelor, 2 masters, and 2 PhDs. She's also a licensed certified professional master life coach with the John Maxwell Group. Dr. Murray's impact on education spans 35 years in elementary education. She was academic dean for high school and college students, a college instructor, a course writer. Dr. Murray is also a much sought after evangelist, gospel recording artist, and has authored several books, including Operating in the Will of God, Wisdom Tips and Tools, and Bullying Behaviors. I'd also like to add that Dr. Murray and her husband are dear friends for many years of my wife Valerie and myself. Today she is going to speak to us as an educator and as a believer in Christ about supporting and protecting our children during the period of education in the education system of our country. At this time, I would like to bring Dr. Murray, and we welcome you today to CFAD's first annual national conference, and we're delighted to have you present with us, Dr. Murray.
Greetings. Greetings to everyone. Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It really is. I am Dr. Mary Williams Murray. I'm the First Lady of the Fellowship of Love Ministries, Hinesville and Savannah, Georgia, alone beside my husband, Dr. Larry Stacy Murray Sr. I am the district missionary for the Savannah District, South Central Georgia jurisdiction, and I have served over 25 years as a district missionary. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a grandma. I'm an educator, teacher, administrator, and school department leader / chair of the English language department. Special thanks to Apostle Tommy and Lady Valerie Quick for allowing me this opportunity to share with you. They are key pillars and example of strong leadership. Key pillars and examples of strong leadership in our church as well as our community. I call them leaders leading other leaders, and that's big. Leaders leading other leaders. They live and stand by what they preach as well as what they practice. I so appreciate our everlasting friendship and bond. This information that I'll be sharing with you will focus on the thesis and issues surrounding public and private education and schools. I'll dive right into that shortly. As an educator for over 38 years, with 31 of those years serving with the Department of Defense schools. By being a part of the education arena, I've seen some things I know it's very relevant to address Christian families against destructive decisions in the area of student learning and mastery. I've seen some things. I really have seen a whole lot of things. I've been there. I've seen parents. I've been around parents. I've been with students. And I'm able to teach students to foster ways to advocate for parents and students and children, and have to embrace that they have to embrace and instruct the content of information that they don't agree with. Some of those areas will be addressed in this particular presentation. Yeah, there are some things that I've seen in places that I've been. And as an educator, we'll find some things that we just don't agree with, and there's some things that we kind of somewhere put into the position that we have to kind of tolerate. But as an educator and as a parent, parents can advocate for what their children learn and what their children know, okay, whether it's at home or at school. There are some scriptures that I really would like to leave with you. I want you to take on these scriptures, and throughout the course of my presentation, I will be addressing those particular scriptures in the course of my presentation. Psalms 24:1, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. 1 Corinthians 10:26, for the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. There are other scriptures, of course, that I will be talking about as I go along. Isaiah 55:8, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, said the Lord. Genesis 1:31. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. The thesis that, as I aforementioned earlier, we'll be talking about it. We're going to kind of dive into it just a little bit and kind of get some insight on where we are. And let me just put it like this. When I was growing up, things have definitely changed tremendously. Education is not the way it used to be. The learning environment is not the way it used to be. Things have shifted. I mean, even the technologies that we're using now, things just pretty much have shifted. And we've been kind of thrown certain things that we need to teach students. And students are being, maybe let's just say, being in the environment of a learning situation where some things that we might not agree with. There are several issues in public and private schools centered around how, this is the thesis statement that we're going to talk about, how we as parents can recognize or organize to fight against philosophies at home and protect our children about such policies and methodologies. Humanism, I'll talk about briefly. Sex education, anti-patriotism, creation theories, and evolution. What can parents do to educate their children on such philosophies? There's a lot that parents can do. We just need parents to just kind of get more involved. And that's over my many years of teaching and being in education. That's kind of one area that parents are not as strong as we would like for them to be. This thesis statement will speak to these components in education and suggested ways that they can be addressed. I was first of all kind of talk about the role of educators. What are the roles of educators? And I'm only going to touch bases and kind of pinpoint just a few of these as I go through. The role of educators, and me being an educator, yes, the educator can be a controller. And a controller is the teacher is in complete charge of the class, what students do and what they say and how they say it. So teachers have a major role in what students learn in school or what they are exposed to. Students are exposed to a whole lot. Woo, I mean, a whole lot. So there are controllers. They do that, and they find themselves being in the classroom centered around what the center of a focus point would be for that day and throughout the course of that year. And of course, students are, or children are around teachers a little longer than they are around their parents throughout the course of the day. So they might spend 8 hours at school and go home and eat a snack, eat a meal, run and play, wash and go to bed. So they don't have a lot of time at home, but the time that they do spend at home is valuable. It's very valuable. An educator is the prompter. A prompter is the teacher encourages students to participate and make suggestions about how students may proceed in an activity. And as a teacher, I've been in different situations where a child voluntarily say, I don't really care to participate in this conversation. I don't want to be involved in this conversation. And then I dive a little deeper sometime to find out, why don't you want to be involved in this conversation? Well, at home, my parents tell me this. And boy, you telling me that makes the teacher feel so empowered to know that parents are really being in their position at home to train and teach their children about what to participate in and what not to participate in. And education is the resource. And the resource is the teacher is the kind of walk-in resource center ready to offer help if needed, or provide learners with whatever language they lack when performing communicated activities. Teachers must make him or herself available so that learners can consult, or if they have a question that they can turn to a teacher where they can ask questions. A child shouldn't come into a classroom where they feel intimidated and fearful of not trusting their teacher or their educator or their leader. So when your child is in that situation, you have to know, and some parents do advocate for their children when they ask administrators to strategically place their children in certain classrooms. And in case you didn't know, parents, you have more power and more rights than you think you do. You really can't advocate for your own child. You can study who the teachers are in that particular district or that particular school and find out what is the best fit for your child. Teachers, an educator is an assessor. An assessor, the teacher assumes this role to see how well students are performing and how well they perform. Feedback. We call it feedback, making corrections, organize what's being carried out. That's an assessor. Getting feedback, capitalizing on that feedback so that teachers would know what students are lacking and what need to be taught. Also, teachers are organizers. An organizer, perhaps, or more difficult, is important for the role of the teacher to play. This is the success of many activities, and it depends on how good the organization skills are of that teacher as how well the students are going to learn about what is being taught in that classroom. Regardless of what activities that are out there, teachers can be so great at organizing those skills where students want to come to school. They wake up early in the morning, Mom, Dad, I want to go to school today. So I'm ready to participate in what we're going to learn in our activity stations or whatever is being taught or what was taught the day previously. Teachers or educators are participants. They are participants. A participant is the role that improves the atmosphere of that classroom. It's the atmosphere, I don't personally, as an educator, I don't hold grudges from the day prior. So if a child comes into the classroom and acts out and do various different things that I have a background knowledge in my sense to say, sometimes students don't realize, parents don't know, or teachers don't actually understand that a home environment sometimes depicts how a child acts in school. Sometimes they come to school sleepy. They put their heads on their desk, They have an attitude. You don't know what type of environment they left. They could have been beat down. They could have been spoken to negatively. Different things that will offset their day. So, or get sick and go to the nurse and beg not to go back home because they're sick. These are some of the things that we are encountering in education and the educational arena. So as a participant, we as teachers and as educators have to thrive to make sure that that environment or that atmosphere is set for all students and that they are ready to learn. Also, the role of educators are to be a tutor or tutors. You can be a tutor. And the teacher acts as a coach when students are involved in particular projects or work, self-study, like a study hall. Teachers provide advice and guidance and help students clarify ideas and limit certain tasks. And as I go through, I'm going to actually talk about these particular areas in detail because I call it, when we get together and we collaborate with students, collaborate with educators and teachers, the input that they have, it's just overwhelmingly interesting because even the quietest child can participate in group discussions. The quietest student can participate. So we're going to find out as we approach this thesis statement about how parents can be involved in their child's learning. And I share this with you. Parent involvement not only enhances academic performance, but it also has a positive influence on student attitude and behavior. The way a child learns, if you're not lovey-dovey, and it's your child, you want to send your child off to school, wanting to come back home to a loving environment. Man, I'm leaving my mom because my mom made me a good lunch for school. Or my mom and my dad left me a note in my lunchbox. They kissed me before I left. They said, have a great day. Oh, they left me a note in my lunchbox. I don't know if parents do that nowadays, but it does change how a child act in school. It does. Said, have a blessed day or have a great day. So we need to go back and look at how we as parents can be involved. A parent's interest and encouragement in a child's education can affect the attitude, affect that child's attitude towards school. The classroom, their self-esteem, their absenteeism, and the motivation, because sometimes when you see a regular pattern with a child being absent from school, then it's time to make that phone call to home. And sometimes when we make that phone call to home, not necessarily sometimes, but often, when we make that phone call to home, parents, they are very uninterested as to what their child is learning at school, or they are lackadaisical and don't want to know what their child is learning at school. I'm going to start off talking briefly about humanism, and I'm kind of going to go over some things in reference to humanism. And as an educator, I've been a part of this for so long, and these were things that were taught to me as an educator as I was going through college, and I found out that some of these areas, especially when I was in college, and I'm going to talk briefly about that as we progress through our presentation, especially in college, there were some things that I didn't really care to involve myself in. Now, let's just mind yourself. Now, I did not necessarily know a lot. I knew I was saved, and everybody's not saved. So that's why we have to really advocate for parents and advocate for children. And it would be a perfect world if everybody that loved Jesus and that was saved and taught the Bible and the principles of the Bible in all classrooms across the nation, but that's not an ideal situation. So we're dealing with people that even are atheists that are teaching our children. And so with many years of study and many years of being involved, there are people that really can care less about what your child learned. It's what they want to give to your child and what they want your child to learn. I do have a little short video that I want to present to you. Prayerfully, it would pull up like it should pull up after I talk briefly about the humanism, and we're going to talk about it. The definition of humanism is a belief that human needs and values are more important than religious beliefs. As you can see, that's what humanism is, or the needs and desires of humans. An example of humanism is the belief that a person creates their own set of ethics. An example of humanism is planting vegetables in a garden beds. You're planting a vegetable, you're putting it out there. So it's just like you're going to you can do this on your own. Everything that is brought to your attention can be done on your own. The humanistic movement organized to gain man proper recognition in the universe. Educational thoughts in humanism is concerned with the restoration of lost values. The humanistic theory in education is an outlook or system of thoughts that focuses on human beings rather than supernatural or divine insight. Okay, everything is centered around what the focus is for what the human need. Like the human body needs air, the human body needs water, the human body needs food, love, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in detail. And without an understanding that all of these things are targeted through God and through the Word of God, as I aforementioned in the scriptures that we presented early on. And these are some of the things that have to be understood and have to be taught to our children. Really, it starts at home. If parents would dive in and tell their children or demonstrate the love that their children deserve from home, then it won't have to be taught so in the school system where I'm at, that I have to really go all out to show that love to that child and build their self-esteem. I mean, I'm not only finding myself showing the love to the child and building self-esteem to children, but I'm having to do it with the parents. I mean, I call parents in, they come in, I'm having to counsel them more than I'm having to counsel the children because they, some of them have no earthly idea on how to raise their children. Then you have children that birthed children. And so they're young in mind and they have no idea. So we're having to battle with what has already been given to us.
What do Stephen Fry, Ricky Gervais, Margaret Atwood, Albert Einstein, Sarah Pascoe and Philip Pullman have in common? They're all humanists. But what exactly is a humanist? Well, in a nutshell, humanists think that every human should be given the freedom and opportunity to live their life to the fullest, whilst respecting and protecting the rights of everyone else and the planet. Humanists are non-religious. They don't believe in gods or an afterlife. Humanists are secular. They don't think that religion and things like politics or education should mix. Humanists are rational. They understand the world through science and rational argument. Humanists are socially responsible. They believe that we all have a social responsibility to each other and the planet. Humanism is an approach to life that's always existed. Nobody invented humanism. It doesn't have a founder or a central figure. It doesn't have a set of prescribed rules or beliefs. It's a movement, not a creed.
As you can see, humanist and humanism is a movement. It's a movement, and these are things that we are having to encounter ourselves as, let me go back to where I was, as something that we are having to encounter as a part of where we are. As it gives an example, it's a person that creates their own set of ethics, their own values, their own everything. So we have to find ourselves showing students what is necessary and how to live according to the principles of the Bible. We have to show them that. And if they're not taught that at home, then our job is to be creative. Well, my job, let me just put it like this. My job is to be creative enough to demonstrate what is important to a child according to the Word of God. And being in the position that I'm in according to the school system. And the school system, we find ourselves having to have to teach content that we not necessarily want to teach. And I come up with creative ways that if I'm going to teach a content area that I don't think is lining up with the Word of God, I always ask the Lord, how can I share this information, especially if it's testable and they're going to be tested on it according to the curriculum that has been given to me. Then I always ask the Lord, how can I say the exact same thing, but it lines up with the Word of God? And I, as an educator, I've been taught and trained. I went back to school to college way back in 1978. And I've always was taught about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we all know that. Self-actualization, self-esteem, love, belonging, safety, and psychological. And if you look at the self-actualization, look at morality, creativity, spontaneity, lack of prejudice, acceptance of facts. Then if you look at self-esteem, this is something that you will probably want to maybe take notes. I'm a very interactive person, so type in the chat box which one of these stand out the most and how can we express these hierarchies of needs in our classroom and at home, according to the Word of God. Self-esteem is self-confidence, achievement, respect of others, respect by others. Now, these are very pertinent areas that we need. Yes, these definitely we need these things, yet we need to find ourselves teaching these not only in the school system, but at home. How to love one another, friendship, family. And they also have down here under love and belonging, sexual intimacy. Now, I'm going to talk about sexual education in school a little later, sexual intimacy. And then you have safety of the body, of the employment, the resources of morality of the family, health and property. And lastly, physiological needs, breathing, food, water, and they keep throwing in the sex, okay? Homeostasis and excretion, sleep. These are things, yes, that we need, but we're going to talk about the importance of why we have to do things God way, okay? And now in the school system, they have pushed so many curriculum-based content that we have to teach. They have just pushed it, pushed it out there and want us to teach certain things. And so, and I'm going to share with you what my personal experience in a few minutes as we go through this presentation. Now, I do want to share with you as we get closer to our next topic, which is going to be evolution. And evolution is one of those areas that, and if you don't mind, give me just a second. And I wanted to pull this up because I felt like it was extremely important to what is being taught. Oh yeah, this is one of the areas that I'm going to share my personal experience on. And evolutionists believe that human beings are a result of evolution. That's what an evolutionist believes. Okay, beginning with simpler molecules to today's modern person. The Earth was made over a long period, beginning 4.5 billion years ago. Lifespan with inorganic molecules. This is what an evolutionist believe. They don't believe that there's a higher being. They don't believe that God did this. They just think that is far-fetched, just totally far-fetched. So these are things that evolutionists believe. And so like animal and plant life evolved, becoming more fit into the environment. Human beings have also evolved along the way from a primitive ancestors into today's modern humans. This is what an evolutionist believe. But we are not the final product, according to the evolutionists, okay? And I wanted to share that with you because now in schools, in the social studies curriculum, I don't teach the social studies curriculum. I used to. I've taught social studies for over 28 years. So now I just strategically teach like ELA, English Language Arts. So in the social studies curriculum, one of my coworkers said to me, she says, Dr. Murray, what am I going to do? I said, what do you mean? She said, then my next theme is evolution. She said, I believe in God. Now, what am I supposed to do? Teach this to these children? And then I said, well, let's look at the curriculum. Let's talk about it. And she said, so how am I supposed to teach all of this? And according to the assessments, we have to assess them on certain things that are being taught from this particular curriculum. And so we looked at the curriculum, and then I said, well, I know you believe in God. She said, well, of course I believe in God. And she says, well, how am I going to teach that these things, according to what evolutionists feel, that nature was centered around from 4.5 billion years ago, and everything just kind of expanded from molecules? How do I supposed to teach that? So we talked about her approach to actually teaching this. And she says, well, I'm hating coming to school for these 2 weeks because I have to teach this. So what we did was we broke it down. We just kind of simply broke it down and said, okay, everything that you know is going to line up with the Bible, let's put that in. How can we make this, get that information out to the students where they would understand that God created the heavens and the earth according to Genesis, and everything that he created was good, and how we're going to do a parallel between what God created and how evolutionists feel the way they feel. So she was able, it took a minute, but we were able to kind of come up with something that was going to be feasible, but met the standards of the education system. As you can see, as educators, we're having to reconstruct our own way of thinking. We have to dive deeper into the way we are thinking in order to teach a content area. We have to teach a content area that we disagree with. For instance, belief in evolution by church attendance. Okay, as you can see, this was way back in 2007. May the 24th through the 21st, May 21st through the 24th. And this is just one, segment of a survey that was done. So if we research and even dive even deeper to find out where we stand in the church system, if we are honest, and I always tell people, if you want an honest assessment of anything that is being taught, do it anonymously. Because the average person is not going to tell you the truth. I don't care how saved they say they are or how much love of God they say they have. They're not going to tell you the truth. But if you do it anonymously and nobody can see where it's coming from, because some people feel that they're being judged. They're being judged that they feel a certain way about a particular issue. And I often say that even when I get to sexual education, I'll talk about that briefly in just a few moments. For instance, weekly, if you look at the scale, believe in evolution. In weekly, 24% believed in evolution and 74% do not believe in evolution. Nearly weekly, monthly, you have 52% which believe in evolution from this particular survey and 45% do not. Seldom believe. You have seldom believe. You have 71% that seldom believe in evolution and 26% never. And so if we were to even take a survey in our own churches or our own places of worship, I would advise anonymously. I would advise that, because if you want to get an honest assessment, do it anonymously. Then I wanted to share with you about the different states that are, it's the states where human evolution is. And if you look at all the red, the dark red, it isn't mentioned. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So that isn't mentioned. That's states where human evolution isn't mentioned. Then you have the pink, which is implied but not mentioned explicitly. And so this was in 2008. And the reason I'm saying that is I'm currently in Georgia. So if I'm in Georgia, and I just made mention to you that this is a new curriculum that came out in social studies for the social studies teacher. So that meant it has already migrated. That means we are officially in the green. It's mentioned directly. So I'm in the state of Georgia. So those reds are not as accurate today in 2021 as they were in 2008. So I would say a current map of the United States would not look like this in 2021. You'll see a little bit more greens than you would see reds, because people, the curriculum nowadays, you have people that are no longer are in education, or they have not ever been in the classroom. I guess I get to speak my heart right now. And so they're making decisions. People are making decisions about what needs to be taught in the classroom and what children need to learn that is not feasible to the child themselves. Okay? Why teach evolution? I also have another short clip that I want to share with you on why teach evolution, and it's coming from the Big Think.
The capacity, or no, the tendency to accept evolutionary theory is, of course, not just judged on the merits of evolutionary theory. It's judged because it is seen as being in opposition to religious belief. And religious belief carries with it not just the belief itself in a particular set of facts and ideas, but all of the huge social and political associations. So in the United States, if you don't believe in evolutionary theory, or if you do believe in evolutionary theory, then it means it's harder for you to commit yourself to a religious group that has huge significance. And so I think the answer to why it is that evolutionary theory is difficult for people in the States to believe is that religious systems are so incredibly prevalent. And why is that? I guess I think it's something to do with the United States being a rural country, and there's a lot of association between rural living and the importance of religious systems. You see it in the Middle East, you see it in Iran. I suspect that as the world becomes more urbanized, we've just passed the point where 50% of the world's population live in cities. I think as this tendency increases, probably the importance of religious belief systems will start declining or will continue to decline, and that one of the consequences will be that there will be increasing willingness to accept even those aspects of science that challenge religious belief.
Yeah, and that is very true, because our religious beliefs about the Bible, we know that God created the heavens and the earth. We know that God created Adam and Eve. We know that. I mean, the religious body of believers believe that. As you heard the presenter made mention, it's going to challenge. It's a challenge. It's going to start challenging our beliefs. But it will challenge your belief. Quite a few things will come against you to challenge what you actually believe in. But if you know who your maker is, you know who created you, you know who you worship and who you serve, you're going to have to be strong. Because now in education, we have been thrown information in. We have to dissect it. We have to pull it out, and we have to measure what we're given to teach children. I want you to know this. We have to measure what we're given to teach children. And I mean, we shake our head and say, oh my God, how can I skip this? I had to teach a topic on dragon wings, stuff that we know that's not real. There was a book they had to read, and there were questions that came that was a part of their assessment. So I was creative. I was very creative. Gave them the book. Yes, I did. I gave them the book. I said, y'all go ahead and read this book. Go ahead and read this book. And I was able to restructure those questions where I told them, and then give me how you feel about this. Even though they chose the answer according to what they were asked to do, then I added more to the question to extend. We call it extend their thinking. I wanted their thinking to be extended. So in order to extend a person's thinking, they'll get a chance to express themselves. And that's what I say about any type of surveys or any type of thing that you want to know how a child is really feeling. Let them express it themselves. And when they start talking about it, then they say, well, I don't believe in dragons. Dragons aren't real. And I was like, yes. Yes, dragons are not real. And so, but that was their extended thinking. Yet they had to go up to the question and answer the question in detail. So I often pray every time that I'm given something new or something different. So I have a curriculum now that I'm teaching in school. And so every time there's something that I come across that I feel that we're not advocate for children, nor advocate for parents, then I find a way that I give the information, yet alter the information where children be able to express themselves, and parents have an involvement in what a child has opportunity to learn in school. Okay, all right. Right, moving along, we're almost there. I saw this quote and I thought it was very creative, and I thought it was very interesting. It says, God is the creator and evolution is compelling science. Evolution is just that. It is compelling science, by Dr. Francis Collins. God is the creator. And I wanted to read this, and I'm going to read this kind of in a sense so you would get it. Adam and Eve are the beginning of human race, and we are separated from every other species by the soul of creationism, and evolution. And they have two different viewpoints on how the earth and human beings began. Creationism is based on the belief that the Bible is a credible source. That's what creationism is, which gives the story of creation. In the span of 6 days, 24 hours, in the span of 6 days, God created the heavens and the earth, and the sun, the moon, and the stars, and all the creatures in the earth. That's what God did. This is what a creationist believe that the earth was young. Yes, and when God created it, God put what he wanted in the earth, and the evening and the morning, as God said in the word, was the first day. So one day might be a day to us, a 24-hour time span, where God, it could be 10 years. It could be 10,000 years. I mean, it could be 100,000 years. It could be whatever God would say that to be. So we are living, I see, in the moment. So every day is a day that we ought to give God glory and give him praise, because God created every day. So where you have God being the creator evolutionists feel like there's more to what the creation of the earth is evolved around. So it's a beginning of molecules. So an evolutionist does not see the earth or heaven and earth. Well, first of all, that's the way they see it because they don't understand the mind of God. So our thoughts are not his thoughts. Our ways are not his ways. So the mind of the man that's trying to figure out how God evolved and how God came about, they won't get it. They just won't get it. Okay. All right. So let's talk briefly about sex education in the being taught at home and being taught at school. Now, I did some study and I really wanted to share this because this is one of the topics that we were going to be addressing, and I'm going to have to hit it and move on because I wanted to share some things with you about this particular topic in particular. If you would give me just a second. And I broke it down. It was broken down to states, and I'm going to give you a summation of sex education by Cal Zenith. The majority of the states allow parents the opportunity. Now, parents get an opportunity to have a say-so about what's being taught. It says the majority of states. It didn't say every state. All right. So the majority of states allow parents the opportunity to exempt or opt out of instructions, while Nevada and Colorado require parental consent before a child may take part in the instructions. North Carolina permits local authorities to determine whether a parent must provide consent or opt out. And Arkansas requires parental consent before students may receive school-based health clinic services, which means sexual education in the classroom, teaching about condoms, teaching about the body, the actual body, the woman's female organs. And so these are the states that have this particular research. 6 states, Alabama, Illinois, Louisiana, Missouri, Ohio, and Oregon, includes provisions that students be informed of their financial responsibility for a child if they conceive. So let me just repeat that. Alabama, Illinois, Louisiana, Missouri, Ohio, Oregon include provisions that students be informed of their financial responsibility for any child they conceive. If a girl gets pregnant, then they teach them that it's going to be your financial responsibility to take on the responsibility of paying for being conceived. So if you get pregnant, you're going to have to pay for it in those states. Mississippi standards require that students be taught about financial difficulties the child and his or her parents are likely to face. And Michigan's curriculum requires that students be advised of laws pertaining to their responsibility as parents. Next to the last, 3 states have provisions informing students about laws concerning legal and safe methods of surrendering infants. So California, Illinois, again, has shifted and added to the other 6 states. Illinois comes down to the provision where they ask you to surrender your child, and also Michigan. 8 states have provisions meant to inform students about adoption. Illinois is one of those, Michigan, Missouri, South Carolina, Vermont, Wisconsin, and Virginia. In other words, these states are, it says parental consent is required before students receive school-based health clinics, and no state funds may be used to provide contraceptives or adoption services to an unmarried minor without prior written consent of the minor's parent or guardian. So parents have to teach their children. Parents, come on, parents, you got to teach your children at home what they need to know, how to take care of their bodies, what to do and what not to do. Here's the other thing I want to share with you. Even though we can teach, parents can teach. Some children are just going to run out and do what they want to do anyway. Those are facts, okay? They're going to run out and do what they want to do anyway. So therefore, if the parent, whether it be a single home, a single parent, a single mother, or a single father, because all homes are not single mothers, but some of them are. But when you get to the school system, some of them, you got to sign the contract, sign the requisition, you got to sign the letter saying that you can receive this. In my school system, you got to sign a piece of paper if you don't think that you'll be able to have food over the weekend to eat. So you have to sign a piece of paper to say, could you give me some food to take home over the weekend, canned goods? And so and some of the parents do not, I'm just using that, they don't sign that particular paper because they feel embarrassed. They feel embarrassed. So you get 2 or 3 students in a classroom taking a bag of food home every weekend, because they don't have food to eat. Yet sexual education, you sign to say, yeah, my child can be taught all of this. And not only can you teach my child, please give them the contraceptives that they need to protect themselves. And some of these things, and I'm going to share this with you in the next slide, some of these goes against religious values. I'm skipping around on this area here. Some are opposed. Some parents, the role of sex education in the syllabus and the school system supports what the school is given, but parents, and it has parents guide their thought system, but parents' role of saying no. The parents don't want all this. Sexual interest in nature. We have to stop demolishing sexual interest in nature. So as you can see, the checkpoints here are what is acceptable, and then what parents go against, what goes against religious values are the X marks there. Not meant for children's ears. Some things are just not meant for children's ears. It imposes foreign culture. And the reason I say that is because even now, I teach 6th grade. I teach middle school. I teach 6th grade. And teaching 6th grade, I mean, I've taught 3rd grade before. I taught 2nd grade before. I'm gonna tell you right now, sexual education or sex period, they know all the way down in pre-K. They really do know all the way down there. So now, a lot of work is going into prevention. A lot of work is going in prevention. And I'm coming close to my conclusion of the whole matter here. How do you say no to sex? And this is another survey. This was given from 2006 through 2008, and you will see a total different, it would be a total different presentation if it was 2021, okay? How do we say no? So you have the males in blue and the females in greens. How to say no to sex. You got 42%, don't know how to say no. 63%, of course, as you can see in females. Methods of birth control, 31% have knowledge for the males, 51% for the females, and it goes on. Where to get the birth control. Men sometimes are not interested in where to get the birth control. As you can see, the numbers are low, and 38% of the women are. STDs, as you can see, they're almost equal back then. Yes, it's probably, you'll see a total different bar graph. You'll see a total different bar graph because nowadays it depends on what's being taught. Some people, some of the males and the females just don't care. It depends on where their mindset is and want to deal with the flesh. And they want to deal with the flesh, not thinking about the consequences. Yes, how to prevent AIDS. And you can just look at the chart, how to use a condom. You got 38% of the males and 29% of the females, with their interest level from the National Survey of Family Growth. All right. Lastly, I'm pretty much going to move through this. What teachers think, personal experience model, attitudes towards evolution, and an article written by Jeff Weed. Okay, in Kentucky, and as I gave earlier, and I wanted to add this last percentage to you, this is a little bit more current. In Kentucky, Indiana, and Tennessee, 23.4% of science teachers report little or no emphasis on evolution in their courses. And that's just in those states. 15% of biology teachers include a creationism component in their classes. 30% of Illinois science teachers believe that both evolution and creationism ought to be taught in science classes. All right, I'm at the end, and I wanted to share that parents do have rights. There are laws that protect parents. There are laws that protect children. And we're not only talking about public education, but we're talking about private education too. So, a lot of Christian schools, they can govern what has been brought into their schools and what is being taught to the children that they are entrusted with. Yet in the public education, we are actually handed the materials and told to teach it. So I'm saying to you all today, so please be mindful. Just know, parents, you have rights. You have rights. You really do have rights. I'm telling you now, you have more rights than you think you do. It doesn't look like it. Just look like you just go into a school and there's the teacher. That's not true. And being an educator myself, I always try to advocate for students and I try to advocate for parents. Okay, so it's very, very important that you find out what your rights are. And I would actually share with you that when you do that, do it the right way. You know, some parents, you know, they get so offensive in some areas and they're ready to fight and ready to have an attitude. And, you know, I tell you right now, if you find the right way to go to someone, you'll get a right way and get a good answer when you get to that person. So pray about what you do, use the word, find ways to be creative in sharing your information with your children, and find ways to be creative. And if you are an educator or you send your children to school and you're not an educator, try to get a little background information on that teacher if you can. But I promise you can, because strategically over my many years, parents placed students in my classroom just because they knew who I was. I never told anyone I was saved, never had to say a word, but yet people know who you are and people are watching. But parental guidance start at home. Parental guidance start at home. We can be advocates. We can be the Christian families against destructive decisions. We can be the Christian family. So just be that. I mean, everybody that say they're Christian might not have Christian values, okay? And might not be the kind of Christian that we are or you are. But we don't, I mean, we have to stop somewhere. That's why I really appreciate Apostle Quick for doing this. Somewhere we got to stop. We got to stop and say, enough is enough. I'm tired of my children being subjected to different types of things that are taught in the school system. And you're going to have to speak up, and you can speak up. You really can. You can say, I don't want my child to be taught that. And your child will not be taught that, because that happens to us. All you have to do is just say it, and then, you know, they'll find other ways for your child to learn another content during that particular time. Again, thank you so much for allowing me to share my presentation with you guys today. And I do ask that you pray for me as we continue to grow stronger in the Lord and do what the Lord would have us to do in these last and evil days. If you would like to reach out to me, feel free to do that. Get in contact with Apostle Quick and First Lady Valerie Quick, and I'll be more than happy to share some more. I really have a lot that I can talk about, and I do, you know, if I was in person, I like to do breakout sessions, and we talk about this, charts where people will get together and discuss, have a lot of small group discussions and reporting back out. Those are the kinds of things that I know that works best when people are able to express themselves and what they're having to encounter with the world system today. So once again, thank you so much, Apostle Quick and Lady Valerie Quick, for this opportunity. You all be blessed and have a great day.